Good afternoon. Welcome to the movement, the maximum output movement. I'm Austin, the prototype Uku, and welcome to the last time I talk about nutrition. No, it's not really going to be the last time I talk about nutrition. So I've had this conversation probably, the actual conversation with various different people, at least 200 times. And so when I've actually had it online, probably at least eight or something like that. And so this time I want to put a comprehensive put in a comprehensive box. So it's going to be long. So this is probably just going to be the intro. I'm going to place it on my YouTube page, which I'm actually focusing on building up. But I just want it to be in this long form so that you can click the link, keep it for yourself, share it to anyone else if you find value in whatever I'm saying. And so I would actually appreciate that because contrary to popular belief, I'm not just out there attention seeking. Whenever I show pictures of me and my abs, it's just to essentially human beings, for the most part, are visual creatures. And so, and I'm trying to gather attention. And then in a forum like this, when you get a chance to hear me speak, you understand that I know exactly what I'm talking about. And so, again, it's not just an attention seeking thing. This is actually my profession. And, the more that I can prove to people that, I actually a competent, trainer and I actually know what I'm doing, the more that I can ensure that I can, bring you these nice little videos from this, from a roof over my head. All right. So now that we got that out the way, it might cut off. And again, I'm going to try and get as much as possible in here. So just so you get a couple nuggets. And if you have to go to the larger version, please go follow my name, Austin Uku. I believe that's what my YouTube handle is. The link is in the bio. Please check it out. Again, like, save, share, and all that good stuff. So right now, I'm coming to you. It is about somewhere in the range of 2:34 Pacific Standard Time. So I would say I'm in a relatively fasted state. I like to start the day off with a walk whenever it permits. So again, in a fasted state, somewhere in the 30-something minute range. Today was about 35 minutes, about a mile and a half. I mean, it's nothing crazy. And I'm not really busting ass or anything like that. So I'm just, locomoting. So I might have to blur that part out for YouTube sake. But yeah, so I'm going to talk a little bit about essentially elite conditioning. And so it's something that nutrition is a portion of it. There's a portion of it that's responsible from exercise. So exercise plays a part in that. But nutrition is probably the biggest part that a lot of people feel that they don't have a grasp of. All right. And so, like I said, I've had this conversation many different times and it may come out in different ways and orders. But in my mind, the concepts just remain the same. And so I was fortunate enough to be on set this past weekend. So I don't know where you're coming to me from, but, I live in a couple of different worlds. So between the acting, the training, the martial arts. And so I flow through a lot of different communities. And so, and I appreciate, all of my friends that I have met there. All right. And so, on that particular occasion, I was on set with a lot of actors who happened to be in a physical shoot. So there's a lot of great fitness minds. We had some great conversations. And I was talking to a friend of mine, Chris, and I had said something I'd said 1,000 different times, and it seemed to really resonate with him. So it was fuel and material. And so that resonated with me. I don't know exactly where I got it from. I'd love to give credit to whoever initially, put that thought in my mind and grew. But that is how I think about nutrition, and it makes everything simple. All right. So a lot of people think, good, bad, blah, blah, this, blah, blah, that, keto, paleo, carnivore. So all the different forms of diet. There's all it boils down to is fuel and material. So when you break it down to its simplest form, that's what it is. And so with me, what resonated with me was training, all right, and how to develop muscle. And recent studies have shown that the key to almost everything is to develop and to maintain as much muscle as possible. So it doesn't necessarily mean to be super huge. And so if that's your goal, you know, go for it. So I might not say as much muscle as possible, because sometimes when you get to be extremely large, there are different complications there. But for the most part, if you're focusing on maximizing your frame in a reasonable manner, constantly driving the muscle building, then everything's going to fall into the right place. So the muscle is the organ of longevity. So the recent studies are finding that. So if you look that up, longevity studies, everything is going to point toward developing that muscle mass. Now, to get to the nutrition portion of it, where a lot of you came here, you're probably wondering why I have a shirt on. But to go further with that, one thing that always again resonated with me was post workout. And so I almost didn't know how to eat if I wasn't necessarily on a training day. And so I reverse engineered it. So it's like, okay, I definitely want to make sure that what am I doing before that I train? And so with me personally, I fast for the beginning portion of the day. So I don't eat. I try not to put any calories into my system before noon. Now that's a personal choice. And, you know, after I said I broke the crutch of breakfast, because I found that whenever I first started fasting, even like a little fast, it was just like I didn't want to be hungry at night. And so when I figured out the rules of it, so ideally you follow a system, you figure out the rules, and then you kind of skew the rules to, you know, fall in what your particular lifestyle was. And so I think I was doing either 12 or 16-hour fast. It might have been 12-hour fast, something like that. And I found that at the end of the day, when it came to like 8 or something like that, I was starving. And so I'm like, you know what do I have to do to not be starving then? It's like, well, start eating later. So I went, all right, cool. And so I'm less strict with my fast, but, you know, just keeping those principles will automatically pull those calories out of your diet. All right. Because if I'm not eating till noon, then those calories just aren't there. And sometimes it's a challenge to make up the protein that I require, but I find different things to essentially be waypoints. So I started utilizing essential amino acids just to kind of be as a waypoint. So whenever I do break my fast, you know, I have like 3 or 4 servings of amino acids along with my meal. So it doesn't take any extra space and it goes exactly where it's supposed to. I also do that before I go to bed. All right. So now just kind of breaking down in its most, I'll say, uh, in its most basic form, what I'm thinking in my portion of diet, I consider it what they would call carb cycling. All right. And so in a situation where someone would do something like, say, keto, where the carbs are extremely low all the time. All right. And then, I mean, there's actually high carb diets. And then something like, I think carnivore and keto are kind of in the same family, except keto is more on the fats. And so essentially what you're thinking about is, you know, how are you going to um, fuel the system? So basically, my philosophy, what resonated with me is if you're constantly eating, what sense does your body make to be able to use its stored fuel? So if you're constantly just shoveling food in your mouth, and the machine is always going, it doesn't have time to not go. All right. And so with the fasting, how it was explained to me is whenever you get that time where nothing is happening with the machinery of metabolism, your body gets a chance to reconstitute itself. What does that look like? Your cell mitochondria kind of reforms into, you know, stronger, so it's able to utilize energy more efficiently. And your cells, they recycle, they get rid of the old waste. And, you know, sometimes there's a concept called autophagy. I wish I could explain it, but the easiest way for me to explain it is your skin shrinks. All right. And so you get a chance to start to tighten up. All right. So all this happens whenever you give your body a clean slate and allow it to, do what it's essentially trying to do. And so, with the fast, again, you give your body a chance to utilize some of the stored fuel. All right, so we got that covered. Not eating all the time. Second, with the carb cycling, if you're not putting in carbs, where are you getting your energy from? All right, so again, there's no good and bad. It's just fuel and material. Simplest form, fuel and material. So I want to focus on developing muscle mass, so I have to have my protein at a certain level. All right, I'm probably woefully malnourished in that in that respect, but because you can get to the point where you count calories, you use a scale and things like that. I believe they said something of in the realm of 1.6 to 2 grams per kilogram of body weight. And so I know recently, if you look at the daily allotment, what they say in the nutritional guides, you're going to be woefully malnourished. All right. So I always try and go big. And so the fact that I do fast doesn't give me too many options to actually have solid meals. So I like to push for at least 2 solid meals. So if you're eating on a normal schedule, they might not be as big as my meals. All right. And so that you're going to have to figure out for yourself. What some people do is they look at their weight or their target weight. So essentially, you kind of have to eat like the size you want to be. And so that's if you're going up or going down. All right. So you look at that weight, then you do the math, then you break it up to how many meals you're going to get. And so it's kind of a simple mathematics thing. Take the time. It only takes doing it once. So you do it once or twice. You see what that looks like. If it's a fist-sized portion of protein, which for most people, the size of their fist, I mean, my fist is probably bigger than most people's, but not the biggest in the world. All right, so a larger person is probably going to have a larger requirement for protein. And so you do that, you break it up into however many meals you get. And so with me, I might have a fist-sized portion and a half or 2, since I'm only getting 2 meals, and do it that way. And so, and to some people who say that you can only process so much protein at once, they used to say that. I used to call them nerds. But now recent studies have shown that that is not necessarily the truth. And so, I mean, when you think back to prehistoric times when, the caveman used to hunt woolly mammoths, you never know when you're going to see the next woolly mammoth. So they weren't going to just save food or throw it away. So they were going to eat as much food as possible. And then they were going to survive until they got the next meal. And so we only changed so much over the course of history. And so I've always kind of leaned towards kind of exaggerating the protein numbers. And I'm glad to find out that, that was an accurate choice or a wise choice to do. Now, the fuel portion of it, again, if you're only eating meat, I mean, there's a portion of it where it's like, say, you're building a structure, you're building this building, all right? So you need timber, mason, nails, all this other stuff to develop the structure, all right? But you also need fuel to fuel the machines that are the cranes, driving the stuff from here to there. So all the infrastructure type stuff, you need the fuel to do that. Now, if there's a lack of fuel, essentially you'll start to break down, some of the structure in order to do that. Now, I think the human body is kind of weird with the fact where if you're not really necessarily putting in the fuel, sometimes you'll sacrifice muscle in order to, get to that next level of what you're asking your body to do, as opposed to just taking some of the stored fat. I mean, there's going to be a portion of it of the stored fat it's using, but if you're not putting the energy in there, you're going to start to break down the structure to essentially get the job done. Your body just figures it out. Now, where you're getting that fuel from. So our fuels are coming from, fats and carbs. So sugar is a carb, so you're not going to break down a fructose, sugar, sucralose, or whatnot. So I was thinking carbs and fats. All right. So the concept of paleo is kind of banging up the fats, good fats, all right, and then keeping the carbs at a minimum, so you get into ketosis, which is a state where your body starts to release ketone bodies for energy and life and whatnot. And so then you have to get to a certain point to get there. But once you start to input carbs back in, you'll shift back over to that system. And so there are things that I like about keto, and the things that I don't like about it. So just the amount of fat. And so I like the concept of starting to shift towards more fat, but the numbers that if you're looking at actual percentages for those people that actually crunch numbers, I'm not really a fan of that. And so I took the concept that I like of it. So meaning start to do a little bit more fat with my regular meals, because I found that once I did that, I just felt better. All right. So getting that energy in the system. So with fat, I mean, that's where your body kind of, I want to say, your body regulates its hormones with the fat. And so, and if you're lacking in that, and low fat diets or whatever, I mean, you're probably going to be half crazy. All right. And so, with carbs, all right. So circling back to that. So again, high protein. Again, I'm making it a point to utilize the good fats in my diet. And so I have a lot of weird allergies. And so a majority of those good fats are coming from olive oil or some type of oil like that, a little bit of butter, ghee butter. Um, every now and then, bacon. I'll consider my fats from bacon. Oh man, bacon. Can't say enough good things about it. And the carb portion of it. So the carb cycling. Some people, what they do is they do um, one day extremely low carbs, and they start to slowly add the carbs in during the week. Then they have like a high carb day. That would probably be what I would call a refeed day. Some people would also call it a cheat day. And so me, I keep my carbs at I don't say a minimum. I don't count carbs, but what I do is I eliminate starches. So um, rice, pasta, bread, cookies, cakes, even potatoes. And so I'll put those into 2 days per week, which I consider my refeed days. And so this is where you want to pay attention. So we have 7 days during the week. And so of 5 of those days, I'm going to have a high protein diet, low carb, and moderate fat. And on 2 of those days, I like to choose Wednesday and one day during the weekend. So it's usually Sunday, especially during the football season. But sometimes, depending on how much activity I had during the week, I can't wait. Or maybe there's a birthday party or something like that, and it happens Saturday or Friday or something like that. I know that during the week I have 2 days where I'm going to have refueling. So the fuel that I choose to do in those days, sometimes it's a giant sweet potato, sometimes it's cake, sometimes it's both. All right. So I want to make sure that I have the yams seem to work really well with my system. All right. And so what that means, like my system holds it. I almost at that particular point, because of the fact that I'm not putting in carbs all the time, my glycogen store diminishes. So glycogen is pretty much um, muscle fuel, muscle sugar. All right. And so it diminishes. And if I didn't restore that, I might be super ripped, but I'd be lean and wiry. All right. So whenever I throw the sweet potato in or the extra carbs in,